What is happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel where for today's review we're going to be checking out the Transformers Stranger Things crossover Code Red. Now, as we check out the packaging, this may just be one of the best boxes that I've seen all year round because whoever designed this was having an absolute blast. So up front, this has been directly based on an actual pizza box as seen in the Stranger Things series. As we check out the side and the back of the box, we get some really cool images of Code Red in both robot and vehicle mode. This side has some really awesome Netflix graphics, and it's also slightly more than meets the eye because as you take this sleeve and slide it clean off, it does transform itself into an actual pizza box. And there definitely is a Code Red emergency because somebody has gone ahead and ordered pineapple as a topping. Now, as we check out what's inside, if you slide this sleeve here upwards, there is even some grease on the top part of the box, and buried inside are some additional Easter eggs. So there's the grandfather clock, the Demogorgon head, the Autobot insignia, some strange looking demon, and inside there are a pair of goggles which you can pop out and actually wear. So this box is just fantastic, definitely one of the best that I've so far seen for a crossover. But let's now head to the Upside Down to check out Code Red. And he has very cleverly disguised himself as Argyle's Pizzamobile. Now, this is an officially licensed Volkswagen product, so the details for the most part do closely match the actual vehicle as seen on screen, which is a good thing because initially I wasn't too sold on the colour of this figure, but after rewatching the series, this was how the van looked in certain lighting, and detail-wise, this thing is just so on point. I mean, check out the back part of the van, really awesome Volkswagen details. If I had one big issue with the way this looks, it would be the design choice to have mismatched windows. I really wish, especially for the price, they had gone for one over the other, because this does kind of throw me back to the ugliness that we saw from the Earthrise Ironhide. But with the exception of that, it is so cool to have an officially licensed Volkswagen van. This is a vehicle mode that we don't tend to see too often in the main line, and it has just been so nicely detailed and designed. As we flip it here upside down, there are no obvious robot mode pieces, so that's pretty awesome, and all four wheels are pinned on, so this guy has no issues in rolling out into battle. Check out the signage here up top, which again has been so nicely detailed and painted, and this actually can transform to give this guy a stealth form. And to show that off, we may as well check out his accessories. So the signage is detachable. If you take a hold of the front end and shift it forwards, it does click one place, and then we can take this top part, flip this forwards, and it does convert into an actual flamethrower. The details up front are on point, but this thing needs some ammo. So Code Red does include ammo, which is very nicely disguised as an actual pizza box, and this does simply just slide into the top, which is really awesome. And this guy also includes his own distinctive blast effect to attach onto the tip. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but this has to be one of the coolest looking blast effects that they've released in a very long time. The painting is on point, and if you've checked out the series, they do like to use fire quite a lot, especially when taking out some of those Demogorgons. And this can be very easily attached on top to create what is, in my opinion, a super badass looking Volkswagen van. That is really awesome. Really does throw me back to the Transformers Dark the Moon movie. And then for some actual handheld weapons that he'll be able to use in robot mode, we see included an Energon axe as well as this spiked club. Now again, these are two weapons which are frequently featured in the show. They usually use these to bludgeon some Demogorgons to death, and because this is a Transformer, these can actually Evo fusion. They can combine together to form a larger weapon, or alternatively for vehicle mode can be stored along the side. So I did think it was cool that whilst the integration isn't seamless, he can stow away all of his accessories on himself at one time. So that's pretty cool, and as I said, this weaponized Volkswagen van looks awesome. Trust me, the vehicle mode I think is definitely the biggest selling point about this figure overall. Now, as we check out some vehicle mode comparisons, up first we have him alongside the most recent Jurassic Park crossover. From a scale perspective, I do think this matches up quite closely to a real-life representation. Here's one of my all-time favourite crossovers, that being the one from Back to the Future. Here's the officially licensed Volkswagen Bug Netflix Bumblebee. So detail-wise, these officially licensed vehicles are just on point. Here's the unlicensed mainline Rise of the Beast Wheeljack, which did a pretty good job in capturing the appearance of the van as seen in the movie, but that upcoming Studio Series version I can already tell is going to be an absolute knockout in its vehicle form. Here we have the Transformers Studio Series Ironhide, and there is a specific reason why I am comparing these two, which you'll see a little more of once I get Code Red transformed into robot mode, but as you can see, there's really not too many differences here in terms of the scale. And then finally, here he is alongside the go-to Earthrise Optimus Prime, so a pretty decently sized figure. Now, as we check out Code Red's transformation, it's probably one of the most enjoyable conversions that I've seen on an exclusive release in a very long time. So, to kickstart things off with, it is optional to detach the signage. Personally, I like to do so as I love to transform this into his flamethrower. The next step would be to then take a hold of this front wheel and completely fold this panel here all the way to the back. Do the same here for this side, so detach that front wheel and fold this here all the way to the side. We can then spin around to the back, and you're going to want to split this seam here right down the middle. So just detach that piece and attach this section. Then we can grab a hold of the front end of the van and the back end and lift this entire front piece here upwards. Then what you'll do is rotate this here all the way around so the back is now facing the front. Then we'll flip to the base of the figure and split the legs directly down the middle. Once that's complete, we can then take a hold of what will become the robot mode feet. So snap those into place, take the shin guards, peg those in there. Do the exact same here for this side, so fold those ginormous feet down and snap those shin guards into place. Now we can come back up to the top end of the vehicle mode, take what were originally the side windows and lift these up. Now these are made out of complete clear plastic, so definitely be a little cautious when you do hinge them up, but to be fair, they feel fine enough. Do the same here for this side. We can then flip around to the back, and these arms are held in via these tabs, so just push your finger in there to kind of detach those. Then we can take the shoulder joints, hinge these here out to the sides, and then fold the shoulders here forwards. I like to do this because it makes the next step a little clearer in my opinion. Then we can flip around to the front, detach what will become the head away from the windshield, and the windshield is on its own separate pin joint. So we'll now fold that section down, lift the chest all the way forwards, and as we check out the inside, there are these clear slots that are going to peg into these grey tabs, and then these black tabs which are going to peg into those yellow slots. Honestly, I would recommend lining up these grey ones first, so snap that into place, do the same here for this side, snap that in there, and then we can take a hold of this yellow piece and snap that there into place. And then for a few finishing touches, all you'll do is take the robot mode hands and begin folding these here out to the sides, then just straighten everything up. And bang! Here we have Code Red fully transformed into his robot mode. And this guy has become massive. Seriously, the mass shifting between the quite compact Volkswagen van to the robot form is honestly impressive considering the transformation's quite straightforward, although maybe he's too big. I definitely think those legs are quite lanky in proportion to the upper body, but with that being said, am I crazy, or do you guys also think this would be a pretty good mold to retool into a Transformers G1 Ironhide or Ratchet? I think it would work perfectly and maybe even a little better than the most recent Studio Series versions. But back to Code Red himself, it's a decent looking robot mode, although it's definitely my least favourite look out of his two forms, mainly because it's just so generic and boring. You know, you've got the Stranger Things license. To me, it makes perfect sense to transform that van into a character who is easily recognisable. I think this would have been great had it converted into a Demogorgon or even 11, because this character I cannot place being anywhere in the show at all. He's just really generic, but as we check out the details, the head sculpt does look pretty sweet. To me, it looks like he's wearing that kind of telekinetic harness that 11 sometimes sports. The chest design I think is wicked. As I said, would be perfect for Ironhide in my opinion. He is quite hollow though. I mean, if we check out the inside part of the forearm, this guy is definitely one of the more expensive crossovers they've produced. I don't think it would have cost much for them to have given him a pair of gap fillers, and talking of hollowness, The back of the legs also aren't great. I mean, look at these huge gaping voids we have in the thighs, and the insides of the legs pretty much have no substance to them at all. But with that being said, the plastic he does have does feel pretty dense and durable. So I guess you win some and you lose some, but for the price point, I definitely would have expected a little more. Now, as we check out his articulation, the head's on a ball joint. This will look up, it will look down, tilt side to side, and rotate left to right. The shoulders can move all the way around, hinge out to the sides. There's a bicep cut, an elbow bend, wrist rotation on ball joints. The waist does move slightly, although it's quite compromised due to the backpack. The hips will kick forwards that far. They'll then kick back roughly to that far. They'll also kick out to the sides to a wicked range. There's a thigh joint, a 90-degree bend here at the knee, and then finally there's no forwards and backwards range at the foot, but they can rock side to side. So articulation wise, he pretty much has all of the points you would expect from a modern Transformer, and to be fair, the idea of a Stranger Things crossover I think is super cool. It is just a shame that when it comes to that robot mode design, they never went crazy and actually based it on a specific character. But the weapons are awesome, and the way they integrate into the figure I think is quite fun. So up first we do have the flamethrower, which he can use as an actual handheld weapon. I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity though, because the actual pizza box ammo cannot be held on its own in his hand. So instead it is permanently kept as ammo, which, you know what, isn't the end of the world, but considering he's a pizza van, I think it would have made perfect sense for him to be able to actually hold that pizza. And if you're not a fan of the handheld look, then the flamethrower can be pegged into the shoulders, although I kind of wish maybe it could have attached onto the backpack like some of the other accessories can, because the second you rotate that shoulder around, the flamethrower is just going to go crazy, and not only will it singe the Demogorgons, but it will likely kill any of this guy's friends. So maybe just keep it as a handheld weapon. Which, speaking of, we have that Spiked Club and the Energon Axe, which I think look badass. As I said, we do see these weapons featured quite a bit on the show, so these are a great inclusion. It's wicked how show specific his weapons are, yet the robot, as I said, I cannot place in the show at all, so they definitely should have turned this into an 11. And in terms of some weapon storage, the two handheld weapons can be pegged into the backpack, so he can draw these out whenever he wants, and the flamethrower can be attached onto the back, flipped around to act as an actual blast effect. So I guess in some ways this could also transform into a jetpack, which again is just so cool. Now, as we check out some robot mode comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Dennis Nedry Autobot. Now, like I mentioned previously, I thought this was a great attempt at crossing over a real human character with a Transformer, but that is sadly just not the case here with Code Red, because I don't think he has been specifically based or modelled on any character from the show. I guess the real takeaway from this comparison would be just how enormous Code Red is compared to this Jurassic Park crossover. Next up, we have the Back to the Future crossover, and even this robot form integrated quite a few Easter eggs from the actual Back to the Future movie. It's such a shame they never did any of that here with Code Red. And then for a few general size comparisons, up first we have the Netflix Earthrise Bumblebee, the mainline Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Wheeljack, Studio Series 86 Ironhide. Now, not to take anything away from this mold, because I've mentioned it so many times before, but I really think this is one of the strongest 86 movie figures they've made to date. But am I the only one that thinks maybe this body type would better suit Ironhide? Because the only issue I really had with this guy would be the legs were a little too chunky when compared to how they appeared on the animation, whereas this I think cleans up so much better. So maybe this is what Ironhide is going to become in the future. And then finally we have the Earthrise Optimus Prime, which is roughly a large Voyager in terms of scale. So to see Code Red closely match with this guy, I think is crazy. You know, this figure is huge considering what he transforms into. And so, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Stranger Things crossover, Code Red. This is an idea which I think sounds cooler on paper than it does in execution. I think they had the opportunity to create something super unique and cool, but instead, it really is just the vehicle mode which stands out to me, and the robot mode is one that I don't think I'll be revisiting anytime soon. In terms of a recommendation, as I've mentioned, the retail price for this figure is quite close to what you would pay for a leader class. In all honesty, if you're not a super completionist of these crossovers, then I would definitely wait for this one to go on sale, and I definitely think it will, because I can't see collectors clamoring for it. With the exception of the alt form, this guy really doesn't have any wow factor in my opinion, unlike that previously released Jurassic Park crossover. I'd love to get your thoughts on Code Red down in the comment section below. Do you guys agree? Do you think I'm being too harsh? I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, transform and roll out!